Good morning. So the same as yesterday, we're going to start by reading the Heart Sutra and prayers to begin the session. I prostrate to the Triple Gem, as I did here at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on a massive vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara: "How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom?" He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara said this to Venerable Shariputra: "Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition of factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unsurceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no objective touch, and no phenomena. There is no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there's no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There's no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment and reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Tayata on gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, Along with the word of gods, humans, asuras and gandharvas were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagawan. I prostrate to the gathering of dakinis in the 3 chakras, who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, looking after practitioners like a mother her child. Akasamara satara saramayape. Tayata gate gate paragate parasangate bodhisattva. For the teaching of the 3 supreme jewels possessing the power of truth. May inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. Shinten Kuriya Soha. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma. And may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. Chedang Zogi Chunam La Chanchu Badu Dani Kyasuji Daki Jin Sogi Pe Sonangi Rola Benje Sangi Pasho Chedang Zogi Chunam La Daki Jin Sogi Pe Sonangi Rola Benje Sangi Pasho Chedang Sogi Chunam La Chanchu Badu Dani Kyasuji Daki Jin Negi Pe Sonangi Rola Benje Sangi Pasho Bugye Yoshi Me To Chang Rebran Lenze Ne De Gen Bandi Sange Sindu Me De Ulwagi Chokan Anna Chin Na Shu Pasho Guru Rana Mandala Kamni Radayamiya. Excuse my voice, I've got my throat's a little bit sore. So we're going to start the same as we did yesterday with a meditation in silence. Where's the gong from yesterday? We're going to do the same meditation with 3 parts. There's probably people who weren't here yesterday. So this meditation, in the first part, we're just following the breath. We just breathe naturally and try not to have any other thoughts in our mind. Just observe the natural breathing process. Try not to think of anything else. We let our mind abide in the present moment, in the here and now. And just be conscious of that. And then, if we could at the same time be aware that this practice of watching the breath is the best medicine to cure our illness. The illness, the sickness we have of an uncontrolled mind. A mind that creates so much confusion, so much unrest. We're constantly, as I said yesterday, we're just spending so much energy in our lives following these uncontrolled thoughts. memories from the past, fantasies of the future, projects, desires, etc. So really we have to recognize this as a chronic illness. It causes us a lot of problems. And it causes us to waste this opportunity, waste our life. So it's important to put effort into this practice. It's not very interesting, it's quite boring just watching the breath. But in reality, this practice that can appear so boring is a marvelous practice, meditation, to be able to cure us from this chronic disease. Our type of lifestyle, our mind is just so dispersed, so uncontrolled, agitated. So this can help us. So it's important to be aware of this fact, aware of the benefits and the advantages. It's something which has a lot of importance and is very effective. So we do this practice of watching the breath for 3 minutes. Then when I hit the gong, we'll do the second part, which is visualizing the Buddha, like the image we have there on the altar. We visualize Buddha Shakyamuni in the space in front of us with a body of the nature of light. If we can't see it clearly, just have faith that it's there and it's filling us with blessings, radiating light. And this light that enters in us, cleans us, purifies all types of negative experiences. We can think of the things which are worrying us most in our life, things which are disturbing us, the problems we experience now. Feel that this light is cleaning and purifying us completely. And not only problems that we have now, today, but we can also bring to mind the problems we've experienced in the past, problems that we might experience in the future. Like the potential to experience different types of suffering also are completely purified. Painful experiences which we may have to experience. All of that potential to suffer, those imprints, all of that is completely purified. So even if we're not able to visualize anything, many people, including myself, we try and visualize but can't see anything. That's not a problem. Even if we don't see anything with our mind's eye, have faith that it's there. This Buddha's body, in the nature of light, feel that it's transmitting, radiating that positive, purifying energy. Even if we can't see it, it's there. So this second part, we concentrate on this visualization of the radiating Buddha's body, purifying any unpleasant experience we have now, in the past, in the future, is cleaned away. We'll do this practice for 3 minutes. And remember, this is a very effective method to wake up the potential of our mind. And it's the same energy of mind which creates so much confusion and problems. With this practice, we can use that same energy to find the solution to the problems, to eliminate, to purify them. So as we meditate, be aware of the advantages, the value of this meditation. We need to do this urgently. All these imprints that we carry with us, carrying in our minds, are blocking us from experiences in the path, in meditation, with the Dharma. We want to understand the teachings, put them into practice. We want to have experiences, realizations on the path. What is blocking us, what is obstructing us, is this rubbish that we've accumulated on our mind stream. So until we can clean this rubbish, until we purify our mind, even if we study, reflect, meditate on the Dharma, we won't advance much at all. So whilst we're meditating in this meditation, be aware of the benefits. It's an effective method to purify our interior. And if we do this well, then the Dharma practice, our objectives in our life, will be much easier to obtain without having to experience obstacles. So this is a little bit about the second part. Then when I hit the gong, visualize that the image of Buddha comes over to the crown of our head, dissolves into a small sphere of light, and dissolves into us. And our mind becomes one with that enlightened mind of all the Buddhas. And meditate on the fact that we have that same energy, same potential in our heart. And in this third part, we imagine that this same energy, same light, radiates from our heart to others, to all sentient beings. We can imagine that they're here with us, meditating in this venue. And then also outside the venue, in the city, in the neighborhood, we radiate purifying light to them. And it has the same effect as we experienced. The same effect in others, same effect in all beings. Animals, human beings, spirits, etc. In the place we are now, we imagine that the light also transforms this place into a pure land, pure place. And all sentient beings receive those same benefits we mentioned. And also, whilst we're here in this place, we can remember where we come from, our hometown. And with this practice, we're also purifying the place where we live, our family members, our friends, workmates, the people we know, the people we relate to every day, the place where we move, the place where we normally reside. Even though we're here away from that place, we imagine that we're cleaning and purifying all the beings and all the places, wherever we go, wherever we move in our lives. So in the same way with this third part, also remain conscious of the fact that this technique brings great benefit. This practice can eliminate the inner enemy, that self-cherishing attitude, which is the cause of all the problems we experience. If we're sincere, if we're honest with ourselves, this is something ingrained in us. From the moment we wake up, what dominates our mind, what dominates our attitude, is me, me, me. My plans, my interests. That's what's dominating our mind. So, as our mind is under the control of this thought, then constantly our thoughts and actions are also under its control. It causes us unbelievable problems. So this attitude is self-cherishing, considering ourselves as the most important, our happiness above, more important than others. We're going to change this attitude to the complete opposite, an attitude that can appreciate others as the same as us, but even more than that. We can even try and wish for them to be happy, even more than us, even more than ourselves. We can use our mother as a figure who looked after us, who showed us such kindness. Our mother, who was just a normal person, showed us so much love and kindness. We should try and develop that wish that thinks, I prefer to suffer myself rather than see my mother suffer. So with this third part, we change the self-cherishing attitude for an attitude that wants to benefit others more than ourselves. So we can take our mother or someone who showed us great kindness in our lives to start this practice. We use that example. But then we go on and include all sentient beings who have also been immeasurably kind to us. Think of all sentient beings without leaving anyone out. And we try and develop that attitude for them as well. Cherishing others more than oneself. We can feel this attitude for a mother or to one person. And if we develop that, we work with that, we can also apply that same thought to all sentient beings. Beings which want to be happy, they don't want to suffer, the same as us. And on that basis, we can work with that attitude, with equanimity towards all beings. So this is the third part. We try to think about others. And reflect that it's thanks to the fact that I've received the Dharma, I've met the Dharma, received blessings from the Buddha. We try and transmit and radiate this energy to others. And develop this thought in our minds, the wish to benefit others. Visualizing from our heart, light radiating in all directions towards all sentient beings. And the fact is that the only thing blocking us, obstructing us from developing this good heart, this bodhisattva attitude, is just the fact that we're not familiar with it. And if we want to practice, we want to develop this thought, we have all the perfect conditions right now to do it. But if we don't practice, it's not going to happen. But if we practice, we've got all the perfect conditions to be able to do this. So this third part, we'll try to remain concentrated on this process and mindful of the benefits of this practice. The main benefit is to exchanging that self-cherishing thought with a thought that cherishes others. A thought that wishes happiness for others, for all sentient beings. And if we realize the value of this, this is the most important thing we can do in our lives. There's nothing in our lives that we can do that has more value, more benefit than this. And we have this right now, this opportunity right now. And if we practice this now, we have that interest to continue to practice it. We can do it anywhere, any place, any time. We have a precious human rebirth, so we have the perfect conditions, ideal conditions to practice. So be aware of this and enjoy it, because it's the best treasure in our lives. There's nothing that compares to this. So let's start. So sit comfortably in a good posture. With a straight back. And we'll start with the first part of the meditation. It's a simple meditation. It's got 3 parts. The first part, 3 minutes, observing the breath. When he hits the gong, second part, visualizing the Buddha's image, purifying us. Then the third part, when he hits the gong, visualize that Buddha enters into us, dissolves into us, and from our heart, we radiate that same energy to all sentient beings in all directions. Normally, when we meditate, when somebody leads the meditation, the practice, it's normally easier if we listen to that person guiding us. It's good to do it like that. If the person leading's had practice in that meditation, you're less likely to be distracted. But when we meditate ourselves, we're leading ourselves in the meditation. So when we start to meditate, maybe it's easier and better for someone else to lead the meditations, and we sit and listen and follow. This way we can avoid being distracted. But if we become too familiar with meditating only following someone leading us, listening to them, our mind can become a bit lazy. Very passive. So in the beginning it might be easier to listen to guided meditations, but in time we need to train in guiding ourselves in meditations. So it's important to know very well the method, the technique. There's lots of methods, lots of techniques, lots of meditations. So first of all, it's important to know very well the instructions and have that very clear when we start the meditation. The structure, the steps we're gonna go through. And that way we can be capable of guiding ourselves in the meditation. And if we practice, we can meditate in any moment during the day. We don't have to be sitting down on a cushion. When we train our mind in meditation, the conscious mind, the meditative mind, that mindfulness, we should be able to carry that with us in every moment. But for that, we need to train that capacity. We can be mindful of what we want to be. We can place our mind on whatever object we wish. So meditation's like any other activity. With a habit, by becoming familiar with it, we'll be able to use it in an effective way. If we don't develop this capacity in ourselves, there's no one that's going to do it for us. We won't be able to achieve it just by looking on internet. Unless we work ourselves, we're not going to be able to achieve it in any other way, in any other place. This is something that we need to develop and work on ourselves. Even if Lama Zopa Rinpoche comes or the Dalai Lama comes, they're not going to be able to give us this on a plate, like a present. So I want to talk a little bit about some things that Rinpoche mentioned yesterday, and then we'll have questions. So I've got a few points here that I've chosen to mention. But Rinpoche's spoken about a lot of different topics yesterday. Rinpoche started by talking about the fact that we're in a state of, we're obscured, we're in darkness. The light of sun hasn't arrived. Enlightenment exists, happiness exists, suffering exists, external beings, places, friends, enemies, past, future, present, exists as something real, something very real. Everything around us, everything that surrounds us, the people that we find interesting, pleasant, attractive, and the people that we find annoying, enemies. The people appear to us as something very concrete, very real, independent objects, independent people, completely real. Everything in our life appears like that. Now, Rinpoche mentioned that the Buddhas, whose minds aren't obscured, everything they perceive is merely imputed by the mind. It's merely projected by the mind, like a dream, like an illusion. It's a way of perceiving reality that's completely opposite to the way we perceive it. So if we analyze and observe the way we perceive the world right now, here, we look around, we see independently existing beings. We perceive them and believe they exist exactly as they appear to us. We don't see them as an illusion. We don't see them as an imputation or a dream, or like a dream. We see them as something real. So it's important to analyze this. And as Rinpoche said, the difference is that the way our mind perceives things is that our mind is obscured. There's a lack of clarity. There's a veil in our mind which obscures it, blocks that sunlight from coming through. We perceive reality in a distorted way. On the other hand, the Buddhas, enlightened beings, perceive things without any distortion. They see that same reality, but completely different. Completely different in the way that for us, every person, every object, everything we perceive, we see as existing independent. When in reality, it's the mere illusion, like a dream. So this example Rinpoche used, like a dream, is very useful to use. Because in a dream, we can imagine that right now in this venue, imagine that this is a dream. Imagine that we're dreaming. If we're dreaming, and we don't know we're dreaming, we'll see everything exactly as we're seeing it now. We'll see real, independently existing beings, and if we feel desire or attachment or aversion or hatred to some people that, in the case of a dream, we feel exactly the same. We see whilst we're not aware that it's a dream, we perceive the reality exactly as we perceive it now. And we feel the same emotions, the same desire to some people, the same attachment, and the same aversion that we might feel to others. Now, in a dream, when we wake up and we realize it was a dream, then we realize that what we were perceiving was just an appearance due to the impressions on our mind. In the dream state, in the dream state appeared to us. So if we use this example like a dream, imagine right now this is a dream. They look so everything looks so real. The people look so real. They're there, really there. Then, in the moment that we wake up from the dream, that disappears. Or even in the same dream, if we become aware that it is a dream and we're dreaming, then we realize in that moment that what we were perceiving is so real. In reality, it is nothing. So this is easy to understand. If we dream at night and we see lots of people, places, experiences, we wake up, we realize it was a dream. It wasn't real. It looked real, felt real. When we see those people, we have experiences, pleasure, pain, emotions, but in reality, there was nothing there. So this is an easy example to understand. And if we apply this to reality, right now, we see this place, the people, as something real. And if we develop that doubt in our mind that maybe the way they exist is different to how we're perceiving them, that's a very different attitude. It's almost nihilistic, because we're so used to just accepting everything we perceive as real. We don't have any doubt. We have no space in our mind. We don't have any slight possibility that they could exist in a different way. So this is what we have to begin to work with, this doubt that the things that we perceive, people, places, others, I, my body, the table, this venue, do they exist as they appear to my mind? Just to start to doubt this a little bit is an amazing step. So to achieve this, we have to use our intelligence, our wisdom. We have to analyze until we can begin to start to take apart that solid existence that appears so real to our mind. So this example of a dream, along with other examples, other analogies, are very useful. The examples are easy to understand. And if we have that base, if we have that reference, and we analyze again and again, investigate that reality that appears to our mind, it will help us become closer to this. As I said, it's not easy because of the habit we have. The habit we have that just validates our experience as real. It's completely ingrained in us. So to get rid of that requires hard work, and we have to use all the tools that we have at our disposition. If we analyze this, it's not so difficult. We can use a variety of arguments and analogies, examples. Like now in quantum physics, if we analyze the subatomic material of any object, we come to the conclusion that any object we perceive with our senses appears so real and solid, but after analyzing, after investigating that subatomic material, there's a different world there. There's nothing, there's not a solid object to there. No, I don't really understand much about quantum physics, but I use this as an example because if we analyze things with a lot of detail, in a very subtle way, we can see that what appears to our senses and what exists in reality is very different. And if we use that reasoning in the correct way and deepen that in our studies, we discover a reality that is completely distinct to the one we're used to, the one which we just take for granted as valid. So this is what this example, or emptiness, is referring to. We talk about the object of refutation, object to be refuted, as something existing independently. So first we try to realize that first step, how things appear, and the object to be refuted. And then we use the teachings, all the different tools to hand, to understand how they really exist and the difference that there is between how we perceive things and how they exist. And when we discover that reality, when we analyze things, we find that they're empty. They don't exist from their own side. They're completely empty of that object of existing independently from its own side. There's the lack of inherent existence. That's emptiness. So this example that Rinpoche gave yesterday, for us, suffering, happiness, etc., past, future, samsara, nirvana, I, others, etc., exist for us, real, solid, concrete. However, for other beings who do see the truth, they see that everything is merely imputed by the mind, a mere projection. And that's the example of a dream. In a dream, we perceive many objects. People appear to us, places appear to us, because there's causes and conditions present. On one hand, the mind is in a dream state, in an obscured state. The consciousness absorbs, and it's in a dull state. So in this state, there's impressions from previous activities earlier that day or from the past. And those impressions, those imprints, in that dream state, make it possible that appearances rise in our mind, people, places, objects, due to those conditions. So we're lying in our bed, in our room, and elephants and wonderful castles can appear, or demons, or a tiger comes and attacks us. We can see and experience many things. These appearances that we see in our dreams happen because there's impressions in our mind. Every person is different. Everyone's different and has distinct dreams, experiences, because there's causes, there's different conditions, particular causes and conditions. So it's due to those circumstances and that state of mind which is lacking clarity, then these things appear. We're just laying in our bed, there's nothing really there, but we're seeing elephants, we're seeing them in our dream, because those causes are there and the conditions are there. When we wake up, they cease, they disappear. So in the same way as the dream, in our life we can experience many different things. They last more or less, whatever they last. But for us, who we haven't woken up from ignorance yet, we don't perceive reality, they appear real. And it's because of that, they appear so real that we have fear. Fear of that which is going to cause us harm. And then we have strong desire to that which we see as attractive. Attachment. And then we have so many impressions that those experiences continue. When death arrives, all those experiences we've had in our lives, people, places, disappear just as in a dream. Exactly the same. We'll never see those people again. We'll never see those places where we lived again. Vanished. All the experiences of life, in the same way as a dream, everything we see in a dream, in the moment we wake up, disappears. So for us, we're living this life like a dream. It may last a few years. It seems so real. Because we don't remember previous dreams, this life seems so real. But in the moment of death, this dream will end. Vanish. Another dream will come. Could be a worse dream, could be a better dream. We don't know. In reality, if we were capable right now to have that experience of death, to see how everything vanishes, everything disappears, we'd see that our experience, this venue, the people, we'd see that there's nothing really there from their own side. There's nobody there. Same way as those elephants appear in our dream. When we wake up in our bed, we see there isn't any elephant in the room. In the same way, if we could see this, in the moment of our death, these appearances will disappear, vanish. Right now, they seem so real. In our dream now, they seem so real. Desire arises, attachment arises. We act motivated by different minds, creating countless impressions on our mind. Which is going to give rise to experiences in this life and future lives. Rinpoche mentioned this yesterday. The difference between how we experience reality and the reality of how it really exists, empty. And another aspect, for example, here, we're many people, everybody here perceives a different world. We have that impression that we're in the same place, we're seeing the same things, that other people are seeing things exactly the same as we're seeing. If we could see the mind of that person next to us, we'd see that they're in a different world. They see different things. And everybody here is in their own dream. We could be in agreement. For example, red appears as red. There's many things that we perceive the same, but there's so many other things that appear different, distinct to each person. Everybody projects their own world. And the fact that we all see red chairs is simply because we have like a common imprint that leads us to perceive the chairs as red. In reality, there's nothing there externally. So yeah, this is something we need to think about. This point that Rinpoche touched on yesterday, the difference between the way we perceive the world and the way enlightened beings perceive the world. Buddha is a being who's completely awake. He sees everyone's asleep, everyone's dreaming, everyone's hallucinating, everyone's experiencing their own world created by their mind. He sees it perfectly. And he can see every situation that every individual being is in. Buddha sees that it exists as a projection of the mind. So to be able to weaken that grasping attitude of inherent existence and to be able to develop the correct view, the view that things exist merely labelled by the mind, nothing more than a projection, projected by our mind, objects, people. There's really nothing there. The same as in the dream, there isn't an elephant there. There's something that appears as like an elephant. That would be the conventional truth. The fact that in our dream we see people, we can experience happiness and suffering, and these experiences rise due to conditions, causes and conditions. And if we create certain causes, then happiness will arise, we'll experience that happiness. But in reality, all of our experiences are nothing more than this, like a dream. Rinpoche mentioned ways to condense the Dharma practice. The vision, the action, the motivation. So he mentioned the vision, action, or the behavior. So Rinpoche spoke that the vision in Buddhism is the view of interdependence, or dependent arising. The fact that everything is related. The meaning of dependent arising is emptiness, is what we call emptiness. Interdependent explains emptiness. Emptiness explains interdependence, dependent arising. So this vision, Rinpoche spoke of this vision of dependent arising, and also action. So the attitude of not wanting to harm others, at least that, and if we can, then benefit others. So in reality, the practice within Buddhism, all the meditations, all the practice we can condense into vision, the view that everything exists as a dependent arising or empty, and the action or the behavior which is not to cause harm to any being. Not only that, but try, if possible, to benefit others. All aspects of practice are condensed in those 2 points. Rinpoche mentioned that developing the good heart, a mind of love and compassion and kindness towards others, independent of whether we practice Buddhism or a spiritual path, or if we have any belief or interest in the spiritual path, even if we just have a materialistic attitude, the good heart, practicing the good heart, is what is is the most precious thing in life. It has the most value. And that's common for all traditions. Everybody can see this value like a treasure, the good heart. This attitude that's something so positive, something that we can really appreciate. Even in society, this attitude, this good heart is something that we appreciate, we value. So the most important thing is for everybody to put effort into this practice, the practice of the good heart. But this isn't going to happen if we don't work, if we don't train. So we need to think again and again in others with an attitude of feeling close to them. See them as something precious. This is very important, something extremely important in general, in the world, for beings, for people who don't practice any type of spiritual path, and especially if we want to follow the Buddhist path, if we want to follow the Mahayana path. The base, the root of the Mahayana attitude is compassion. Compassion is seeing others the same as oneself. See their suffering and problems as something unbearable in the same way as our own suffering and unpleasant experiences are unbearable. In the way when someone is very close to us, the person we most cherish in our life, when they're experiencing suffering, that thought arises in our mind, we prefer to experience that suffering rather than them experience it. That thought, we'd prefer to experience, we'd feel even happy to have that experience if it would free them. So this we can develop to others close to us. A mother develops this to their children. We can develop this, we have this to our parents. If we train our minds, if we think again and again in others in the same way as our close ones, then this attitude will rise in our minds exactly the same. In fact, the practice, the mind training to develop is this love, compassion, bodhicitta. This we develop in our mind again and again, but we have to reflect on this in our mind again and again. And if we look at this, it's not something difficult. It's not just the holy beings or beings in Tibet. Holy beings can develop this sincere wish. We might think that, but if we analyze right now, if we want it, we've got it on a plate. It's easy. We have time, we have intelligence, we have the teachings which explain how to follow this process step by step. So if we really want to achieve this, it's not difficult, it's easy. It's not something far away on the mountaintops. We've got everything that we need right now. This is something, if we worry about world peace, if we worry about others, the situation of the world, this is the most important thing we can do. This is the best thing we can do. So there was a question yesterday. Somebody asked Rinpoche if we see great injustice, someone causing great harm to others, and we can't do anything. We're incapable of helping or doing anything. What should we do? What can we do? Rinpoche said, the best thing we can do is to develop that wish to want to benefit others. So if we have some interest in this, it's something that's not that difficult. It's simply have that interest and dedicate time. The fact is, we dedicate a lot more time, a lot more energy, and we put a lot more interest into activities that we know that long term are not going to bring us anything good. They're just going to end in dissatisfaction. But right now, really, if we analyze, we have perfect conditions. So this point about the vision and the action, action is the attitude of compassion, avoiding harm, avoiding words, actions which cause harm, and to put effort to practice actions which bring happiness and which help others. That'd be the part of action. If we want to follow the Buddha's path, the way to act in our life is this: avoid harming others. And if we can, take every opportunity to help, to benefit. The other aspect is the wisdom aspect, the vision, which is this point that Rinpoche mentioned at first, the difference between the way we perceive the world, which is obscured, and the way the Buddha perceives the world. We see everything as existing very real, independent, not like a dream, not like an illusion, something that really exists. So analyze, use our capacity to analyze again and again in our life. Does that object exist there? In the same way the scientists examine that, the way objects exist subatomically. In that same way, we use the tools that we have available to us in our mind and the consciousness to analyze our experience, to analyze to see if those objects that we perceive, starting with the I, the body, the people, the objects I perceive, analyze and look. Do they exist with that inherent nature that they appear to have? And by that way, become closer to the vision that the enlightened beings have, that everything exists as a mere appearance, like a dream. As soon as one of the conditions that are causing them to arise disappears, then that object disappears. There's nothing real from its own side. There's a lot more points Rinpoche mentioned yesterday. if there's a question. Hello. So I'd like to ask, with respect to the method to obtain the vision of emptiness, what do you consider about lucid dreaming, the practice of lucid dreaming? Do you think this could be a useful tool to correct our wrong view? Do you think it could help us with that purpose of realizing emptiness? Yes, the lucid dreams. In fact, yes, there's a practice in Tantra, the dream yoga dreams. In that practice, you train the mind to have lucid dreams and to practice during the dream. This helps a lot. In fact, they say if we meditate in emptiness, or we meditate in other aspects, if we meditate a lot when we do retreat, and we dedicate the majority of our time to practice meditation, if we become familiar with this practice a lot, then that same practice will rise in our minds whilst dreaming. And we'll be able to have lucid dreams and then continue the practice during the dream. So they say if during our life we practice and then we're capable to continue that practice during the dream, that same experience at the time of death will help us realize the process of death. At the time of death, the mind leaves the body and has different experiences, different visions, which appear due to karma, to the impressions on the mind. So in a similar way, it's like the dream state. So normal beings don't realize, they're not conscious of the death state. And this experience could be pleasant or unpleasant, but they don't recognize the appearances at the time of death as mere visions. So, with practice, if someone during their life has a stable practice and is capable to is able to have lucid dreams, is able to make use of their dreams, to practice in their dreams, this person will be able to use the death state. It's possible even to use the death state to achieve enlightenment. In fact, dying is similar to the process of dreaming. The mind absorbs, has various experiences. In a dream, it happens, and then in death, it's a very similar experience, more intense, but similar. Yes, you're right. So regarding your question, it's true that practicing in the dream is important and helps a lot. She said, I didn't refer to practicing in the dream, just the fact of during a dream realizing you're dreaming. Yeah, it helps if we meditate during the day. If we meditate during the day on emptiness, and then we have in the night lucid dreams, that helps a lot. Yeah, just by meditating a lot, it can induce lucid dreaming at night.
going to try to do both sides. So. Es algo que me abruma y que me gustaría conocer tu análisis, tu postura.
This is something which worries me. The nature of mind is emptiness, light, knowing intelligence. How is it possible something pure, if the nature of mind is pure, how is it possible that it is at the same time stained? So I'd like to know what's your reflection, what's your analysis on this. This is a difficult subject. Often comes up. The fact is, they say the nature of mind is completely pure. We talk about the nature of mind on two levels. There's the conventional nature of mind, which is that capacity, that clarity that makes possible objects to arise. And then the knowing aspect means that our mind is conscious of that. So the definition of conventional mind is clear and knowing. There's an object that appears, an image that appears, person, a sound, whatever, and then there's a mind which is conscious. That's the conventional aspect. So in emptiness, there isn't any characteristics, there's no duality. It's just the lack of inherent existence. So that's the ultimate existence. So the ultimate nature of mind is emptiness. So our mind and the mind of all sentient beings has since the beginning of time been pure. And that ultimate nature is unstained. That Buddha nature, that potential is not any different from a Buddha or us. There's no difference. The only difference is that in our mind, the only difference is we don't perceive that reality. It appears distorted because there's impurities in the mind which prevent that perception. So whilst those impurities are there, even though that pure nature is there, it appears as distorted. Only when we reach enlightenment will they be cleared away completely. So the question is, when does that start to happen? So this is a problem. From the Buddhist point of view, all phenomena are impermanent. They depend on causes and conditions. There's no impermanent phenomena which doesn't have a cause. There's nothing that appears without a cause, spontaneously. In the case of ultimate nature of mind, it's a permanent object. It's not an impermanent phenomena. It doesn't have a cause or condition. It doesn't change. The obscured mind, so if we go back in time and look for when these obscurities started, there was always a previous cause. Because it's impossible for a phenomenon which exists due to causes to appear spontaneous. There's always a previous cause. So if we go back in the past, millions and billions and trillions, incountable moments before. Now, on the other hand, that pure nature has always been the same, unchanging. For me, what helps to understand this is to see that the conventional aspect is a dualistic aspect, depends on causes and conditions. Subject, object, causes, conditions, past, future, present. Now, if we perceive reality as it is, it means to see this dualistic view, this wrong view. There isn't duality. The reality, what Buddha sees, there isn't past, present, future. However, if we have that dualistic mind and we grasp that structure, past, present, future, causes, conditions, it's like a wheel, a circle, a trap, round and around again. But ultimately, that disappears. In emptiness, that disappears. So for me, I don't think I've replied to your question, but for me, whilst we try to perceive and understand the reality from a dualistic point of view, there's always going to be a dualistic view. And if we try to find a previous cause, we'll never find one, because in that dualistic mind, it's like that. Everything depends on causes and conditions. But if we develop the correct view that's free from that duality, that perceives reality exactly as it exists, then the problem ends. There isn't a beginning. If I go to the doctor, I have a disease, sickness, I go to the doctor, they can't find the illness. If I ask him, when did I start to have it? But if he can't find it, it's a ridiculous question. He won't be able to say when it started. When we start a daily practice, meditation practice, so in our lives with work and all the different commitments, we don't have time. I really want to, I have the motivation, I know it's beneficial, it's useful, I want to, but as soon as I leave my house at 7 in the morning, I arrive back at home 9 o'clock at night, tired, exhausted, prepare my dinner, completely exhausted, go to bed. Have you got anything to suggest for people who just don't have time? People who want to, on one hand, we really want to, but they want to practice, but it's just so difficult. No time. It's true, it's difficult, that kind of lifestyle, it's difficult to find time. But there are people that, maybe from 20, 25 years ago, they work here in the city. They're working, they've got jobs, but they find a moment to meditate. Are people who have more time available, can do a longer session without rushing? For those people who have a lot of things to do, then it's difficult to find that much time. But if somebody really wants to, they really have strong interest, you can do it. In the same way, to be able to get to work, we have to get up a few hours before, give us time to catch the underground, the bus, to get to work. In the same way, if we get up just 15 minutes before, we can fit in a meditation. Now, this depends. There's people who have a more determined attitude and with more discipline. But it's not easy. But in the beginning, it's very helpful to be in contact with a group that meet maybe once a week, or if there's a center group near to you, practice together. In the group can help maintain that discipline, that energy. Now, I know it's difficult. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. Everyone can do it. In the same way, we can be busy all day with work and so many chores, things to do. If we want, we can dedicate 15 minutes a day. Anybody who has strong interest. Now, to develop that interest, it's important to recognize the value, the importance. That's why when we started with our meditations, it's very important to remember the benefits, the advantages. Sometimes we're so busy, so stressed out, we want to do so many things, and we think we haven't got time to meditate. But what happens a lot, often, or nearly 100% of the times, but even if we just stop for 15 minutes, watch the breath, calm the mind, the activities we're doing, we can accomplish better, more effortlessly, with more success. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So this question, maybe I'll be extending too much, but anyway, yesterday Lama Zopa so talking about Lama Zopa was talking about suffering and the if you could talk a little bit more about what Lama Zopa mentioned yesterday regarding suffering and the ego, and how to be conscious of suffering. So I don't really remember exactly that point, but or that term, but in general, Rinpoche in his teachings always puts emphasis on being aware of suffering. When we think about the type of lives we lead, the majority of people, of beings, it's unimaginable. Sometimes we feel when something terrible happens in society, a disaster or something, it's very sad, it's tragic that people are suffering, which is true. But apart from that, the suffering that we perceive, or we can be conscious of, that is just such a small part of the amount of suffering that's present in the world. For example, here we are, a group of people in Madrid. We could try and imagine the people here in Madrid, in this city that could have problems, sickness, all sorts of problems, emotional, physical, relationship problems, different conflicts, personal problems, etc. We can try and imagine all that. But if we could see the reality and see all these families house by house, all the people, just in this city, we'd have a heart attack. Really, we'd just be floored. And that's just Madrid. That's just one city. And only thinking of human beings like us in that city, in that place. We live in a society, in a culture where there's quite a high level of comfort. There's a good material level of a good standard of living. If we think about other places, other cultures, if we think about other realms, other beings, animals, really the suffering is something, if we start to think about it, is unimaginable. So sometimes we could become depressed about injustices we see in society, but that is just a fraction. It's a ridiculous quantity of suffering. So in Buddhism, again and again, the first step, the first noble truth is to be aware of this truth of suffering. If we think about the Hinayana path, analyzing suffering, understand and contemplate suffering of this life, past lives, the suffering we're going to experience in future lives. If we do this, then it would give us a heart attack. So the reality of suffering is emphasized again and again in Buddhism, and the necessity to be aware of it. This could appear as pessimistic, could make us feel kind of depressed, but this analysis, if we investigate this, then it results in a strong determination to do something. I can't bear this situation anymore. But I, in my life, I'm going to have to experience unbelievable, unimaginable, all different types of suffering, myself and others. And now I've achieved this precious human rebirth, I've met the teachings, I have to do something, I have to act. Really meditating in suffering, even if it might appear as something a bit depressive or pessimistic, is something very effective. And we shouldn't feel depressed. We should feel very grateful that thanks to recognizing suffering, the wish to do something, the desire to change rises in our mind. Because if we don't take this first step, if we don't contemplate suffering, then the attitude we'll have in life is just life's to be enjoyed while it lasts. Just looking for, just following whatever we fancy doing, whatever's easier. With that attitude, we're not going to advance on the spiritual path. It's the same attitude that animals have, exactly the same. So I don't know if that answers your question. So I'm going to pass the microphone to Kiko for this question. Thanks a lot, Jesús. Friday, Rinpoche spoke about the importance of dedicating for the family members. May they never be separated from the four spheres of Mahayana. Could you explain this a little bit more? So yeah, the practice and dedicating the positive energy accumulated by the practice is very important. It's a fundamental practice of meditation. It's important to take it. It's important to take it seriously and do it the best way possible. So we should try and see the value in this. Whatever practice we do, meditating, listening to teachings, we create a positive energy, beneficial energy. But that same energy, which benefits us so much, can be lost very easily. So here, if we meditate in love and compassion and emptiness, we feel really good. We leave this place after 5 minutes. Our mind becomes again concerned with mundane things, worried, stressed, we feel bad. All that positive energy has vanished, dispersed. So dedicating the positive energy at the end of the practice is very important. And the dedication, the more altruistic it is, the more power it has. So if we dedicate the merits, may I cure myself of my disease, may I have success in everything I do. If we think like that, then yeah, of course it will maybe help us, things to go better for us. But if we contemplate others and include others in that dedication, then the power multiplies. So if we dedicate the merits, not only for my projects and plans and for me, but for all beings, for their projects, for their welfare, becomes a lot more powerful, has a lot more value. So there's a lot of dedication prayers. In general, we dedicate the merits for enlightenment for all sentient beings. That doesn't leave anyone out. So if we dedicate that way for enlightenment for all sentient beings, no one's left out, nothing's left out. That we can say is the best, the ideal dedication. Dedicating for their teachings, their Dharma, not to generate and to reach all sentient beings, is also a perfect dedication, because that's what's going to lead other beings to enlightenment. And then for those beings who transmit the teachings and help us in the path, for them to have a long life. Also a marvelous dedication. And then, as you said, as Koke said, we dedicate for us, our family members, the people who collaborate and are helping, working in the center, and all the Dharma centers and projects, people who are working for sentient beings, working so sentient beings can meet the Dharma and can reach enlightenment. We dedicate for them. That's another marvelous dedication. Thinking that every one of those people has a family, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, then becomes even better. The fact is, the wider, the more encompassing our dedication is, the more positive energy. So we dedicate not to be separated from the 4 spheres of Mahayana, or in Tibetan, the four wheels. In the same way, in this life, we've met with ideal conditions to practice Dharma. May I, in the future, this life is so brief, it's going to finish at any time, may we be able to may we achieve the same conditions. They're not easy to bring together. So we dedicate to be able to meet with perfect conditions again in the future. Us, family members, all the beings who work for the Dharma, for the centers. May they never be separated from the four spheres of Mahayana, the four wheels. The four wheels. One is to be born in a Dharma family, or a family which is conducive to practicing Dharma, where we'll be able to meet the teachings, receive teachings. To be able to be under the care, under the guidance of Mahayana teachers. Perfect, qualified Mahayana teachers who can guide us perfectly on the path to enlightenment. Then have faith and interest in the Dharma. We could be born in a Dharma family, have access to teachers, teachings, but we don't have, from our side, faith or interest. So we need that faith, that interest, that wish to practice Dharma. And then the fourth one is the capacity, the inner strength, the determination to practice. Not only have faith and interest, but have that inner strength to put it into practice, to carry it out. So if we carry out this dedication, may I in future lives have these conditions. This will help that positive energy that we create not to be lost, not to be wasted. It can be used so that in the future we can meet with these favorable conditions again.
Buenos días, Jesús. Es una gran alegría. Quiero extenderme, pero
Good morning, Jesús. I'm just so happy. I don't want to go on, but I'm just so happy to be here, receiving these teachings, receiving your explanations. It's such a blessing. Well, just wanted to say thanks. Okay, the question. So an arhat who's destroyed karma and delusion, so this, how does the ayah being see the red chair? If they see it red, I'm very confused. So you're not very clear the question, sorry. So normally when a being achieves liberation from suffering or nirvana, they abide in a state free from suffering, a state of bliss, of great peace, inner peace, which isn't disturbed at all. So these beings in this state, there isn't any interest in perceiving red chairs or any chair. So they want to abide in a permanent state of peace, free from affliction. Nothing appears to them, and they can remain in this state for inconceivable amounts of time. So they say, as this isn't the final goal, this isn't the state of enlightenment, they've achieved liberation, they've achieved definite liberation from suffering, but they haven't got the capacity to benefit others like a Buddha has. Even though these beings achieve nirvana, they have a lot of compassion, they have a lot of love for sentient beings, but they don't have the capacity to help all beings. So they say they remain in that state for an incredible long time. And then the Buddhas, with their powers, with their capacity, they wake them up. This is quite hard to understand. They help them realize that that state that they're abiding in is not the final goal, that they can improve it. And for them, to achieve the final state of enlightenment, they have to develop great compassion for all sentient beings and develop the wish to realize enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So what I've heard, I don't know, it's a way which could... They say that Buddhas manifest through the power of emanation. They manifest a light. They make. How do they do this? They make some amazing kind of creations of light. That make these beings realize that their state is actually inferior to the state of a Buddha. For them, they've achieved perfection. They're free of suffering. They're in a state of peace, of nirvana, perfect peace. But through the power of the Buddhas, something appears like a light, a state which they see as something superior. They realize that they are in a state which is inferior than that. A state inferior to that marvelous state they're seeing, that state of light. So with the teachings of the Buddhas, they enter into the Mahayana path. They develop love and compassion equally to all sentient beings and develop the Buddha's qualities. Something like that. So what about a Mahayana Arya being? So an Arya Bodhisattva has achieved the 8th level. They achieve liberation from suffering, but they continue practicing. They don't remain in that state of nirvana. So in that state, that being that's not yet a Buddha, that's purified their karma and delusion, do they perceive other beings? Yes. They perceive beings, they work for others to benefit them. And they manifest to benefit others. And they see the world, see the beings, they see every being. Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks. Thank you very much. Hello. My question is related to what we're talking about. How's that vision of emptiness related to perfect action, to altruistic activity? So you mentioned, we shouldn't fall into that depression, contemplating, suffering. But to start to doubt how we perceive reality. So for me, sometimes I feel that it affects me. I don't see how this can help me, how contemplating this can help me want to benefit all sentient beings. I can't see the connection. So that's the same for the majority of the people. When we meditate at our level, when we meditate on emptiness, it seems that the compassion's weakened. If we're meditating that sentient beings exist as like an illusion, empty, an empty appearance, we could think, well, what's the point of meditating on compassion? When we meditate on compassion and we see the suffering beings, we see beings suffering. So it could appear as contradictory. And that's because we don't have the right understanding of emptiness. Because we have to work on that. It's normal. That happens to everyone. When we meditate at our level, when we meditate on compassion, it seems to strengthen the wrong view that things exist independently from their own side. When we meditate on emptiness, it seems to weaken compassion. The compassion becomes less, but as I say, it's because we don't understand perfectly, we don't understand yet correctly the way things exist, emptiness. So it's important not to go to extremes. We shouldn't. We should strengthen both aspects. We should meditate on bodhicitta, on compassion towards sentient beings, develop that motivation with that sincere thought, intense thought. Think that if I really want to free all sentient beings from their suffering, I need to see how things exist exactly as they exist, and develop that right view, the correct view. And with that sincere motivation, meditate in emptiness. And then when we meditate in emptiness, we realize, we see things exist, but exist empty of inherent existence, form, feeling, as in the Heart Sutra as we go through. That emptiness manifests as sentient beings in the world we are, in the world we're in. I, for example, my nature of my body is empty. If I look for my body, I won't find anything. But when it hurts, when I feel pain, I feel the pain. Even though there's nothing that exists inherently, it's an illusion, it's like a dream, but it's like a painful dream. We all want to experience nice, pleasant dreams. So that conventional existence is there. Conventionally, we have to work on that, put our energy into that. Acting always to avoid suffering, avoid creating suffering. Conventionally, we have to strengthen and try and help ourselves and others experience that happiness. And then on the other hand, remember with wisdom that everything exists like a dream. It's very difficult to maintain these two, but it's a question of practice, a question of becoming familiar with our practice, familiar with this. But there will come a time when we contemplate emptiness, our compassion will increase. And when we meditate on compassion, our wisdom of realizing emptiness will increase. So we should try to understand that this isn't some philosophy that someone invented, the Buddha invented, like a theory, a complicated theory or something. Emptiness refers to perceiving things as they exist. And that's the capacity we have, the capacity our mind has. If we clean our mind of impurities, we have the capacity to perceive phenomena exactly as they exist. And if we perceive phenomena as they exist, then we will stop committing errors. Our capacity to help others will be a lot stronger, a lot more powerful. So it's a question of practicing the two aspects simultaneously. We should try and practice them at the same time, complementing each other. One more question, and then we'll leave it here. So for those of us who've been born in a altruistic family, so So the question here is about if she's from a Catholic family and she's in the meditation changed the Buddha for another kind of image more close to her. Is that okay? Like a ball of light. So this practice, it doesn't really matter. Whatever inspires us. The Virgin or a saint or God. If we meditate on that as our visualization, it's the same benefits, no problem. Now, at a philosophical level in Buddhism, we don't have a creator God. So there's a difference there. It's going to be difficult to find it compatible on a philosophical level. But there's a lot of people, who believe in a creator God who can do this meditation exactly the same. So in Buddhism, to understand emptiness, to see that everything exists due to causes and conditions, as karma, that can contradict the view of a creator God. But these kind of meditations, visualizing if we're familiar with Christian images, visualizing those images but inspire us, we can do exactly the same practice. Just replace the Buddha for the Virgin, for a saint. We can do the practice exactly the same from Buddhism's point of view. No contradiction. We usually visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, but if we do practices with other deities such as Tara, Chenrezi, Yamantaka, it works in the same way. One last question. Thank you for the teachings. My question is quite extensive, but I'll try and reduce it as much as I can. As you've repeated various times that Buddhism doesn't believe in a creator God, who creates so much beauty that surrounds us, the mountains, the lakes? Beautiful landscapes. Who creates that? So I'll give you the Buddhist point of view, without much explanation. So Buddhism says that the world we live in, the world refers to the physical place, the people who are there. Create karma, impressions on our consciousness. And then the beings there, due to past impressions, karmic imprints, and those karmic imprints which are changing, the people who are with change, so the world we experience, the world around us, changes. One life's better than others. It could be better or worse, but it depends on these karmic imprints, these karmic impressions. The world we experience is created by karma. And our karma is created by our thoughts, our motivations. So what we experience now is a result of past actions, and our experiences of the future are going to be the result of our present actions, our present thoughts, our karma. But there's not much time to go into this, so I won't explain it anymore, but like that, we'll dedicate now the merits, dedicate the merits, the positive energy from coming together, contemplating, reflecting on the teachings. We'll dedicate this positive energy for all sentient beings to reach enlightenment, for all sentient beings to be free from suffering, problems, and for all sentient beings to experience happiness, to achieve the state of enlightenment. We dedicate for the teachings to expand and spread, to reach all sentient beings. And we dedicate for the long lives of all the teachers. May we always be under the guidance of these teachers. May each one of us find perfect conditions to practice Dharma and quickly achieve enlightenment. And dedicate for the peace in this world. Senchur Rinpoche Ma Ke Pa Na Ge Yu Che Ke Pa Nyan Pa Me Pa Gon Ne Gon Du Pe Wa Zhu Ko He Shin Kan Ne Pen Dan De Wa Ma Lu Zhu We Ne Ten Re Zi Wan Den Zin Ga Zhu Li Sha Be Zi Den Ba Du Den Ju Ji.
¿Cómo era la bolsa? De la Ikea. Ah, la tenías ayer seguro. Aquí no sé. Pues no la veo. Aquí no la he visto. Y no sé, está poniendo esto en el que estaba por ahí. Ya lo sé.